Hello, welcome to my video about a couple things. I'm going to be painting an armor kit of a scout trooper in what I think is a pretty close match to the screen used stunt scout trooper kits in Return of the Jedi. I'm also showing off these Soldier's Cross stands that I have made several of to display my different armor kits. The stand is very basic, it's a one-size-fits-all, and it's similar to what soldiers use in the military to put their helmet and flak jacket on in their barracks or their office at the base, whatever the case may be. The stands are useful for a lot of different kinds of armor kits. They're also useful for having a stand to work on your armor. And that's what I'm going to do right now. This is actually a helmet that is not intended to ever be worn. It's more of a study piece that has colors, kind of like of an anatomical model, to make the different parts really obvious. The penciled marks you see on the surface are where I studied on-screen battle damage, I guess you could say, except I think it's more like exhaust fumes or weathering might be a better term for it. From Return of the Jedi, when the Scout Troopers first appear, you can see on their helmets and their armor kit what are undeniably puffs of spray paint. And to think about all the hard work that went into making the Scout armor kits, they were very difficult to create, and it almost looks like they got them on scene. They got a couple dailies of the Scout Troopers on Endor or Northern California, and somebody, probably George Lucas, said, "Hey, these just look too clean." So I'm really doing this in the spirit of how the original screen used props look. They literally look like they were just spray painted with a rattle can on set. And I think this is a great spirit of set and prop making and making these on the moment decisions for a better shot by modifying the prop slightly. So I think I've got it okay here. I like to do a little test. But one reason I like to have the anatomical helmet is I can sort of collect data on it and just do some marking tests. And now after doing that, I feel like I'm ready to place the spray paint onto a nice clean Scout Trooper helmet that I just finished. My goal with this helmet has always been to try and replicate the on-screen spray painting. I have not installed the inner padding because it would get spray paint fumes in it. I also removed the lens for obvious reasons. I like how my lenses can snap in and out. It makes it a little more easy to do these types of modifications. So right now I'm just looking at the two pieces. I'm just letting my eye track back and forth from the reference to this piece here that I'm going to start spray painting on. I really don't want to overdo it, so I'm just going to do a couple light spray paint spritzes. Part of what I was studying from the images from the screen used helmets is what direction were they spraying from. In some of the cases, the spray is a little bit elongated, or the mark is elongated, so they were spraying it more kind of from a side angle, not straight at the helmet. Pretty much all the marks are like that, which is why I think that they were intended to be not so much battle damage, because at that point the Scout Troopers hadn't been shown in battle yet. So if we're going to think that the spray painting that was done on the on-screen stunt Scout Trooper kits, if we're going to think that that was battle damage, then that would have been from some previous off-screen battle. I think the intention was more to show that the Scouts were dirty from work. with their speeder bikes, there was the impression that they may have to work on them, or at least service them, perform maintenance, and that would probably be a little greasy and a little dirty. I also get the impression that the speeder bikes had some kind of exhaust fumes. And just from being around lots of other vehicles, the scouts would get a little scuffed up from exhaust fumes. My goal is to just not overdo it. If you overdo it, it's harder to remove the paint than it is to just add a little more. And I do understand that it's not, I'm not using an airbrush, I'm not using a more traditional weathering technique to do this, but that's because I'm trying to recreate what is obviously spritzes of spray paint on the stunt armor kits from Return of the Jedi. So there's definitely a lore standard for how you would want to weather scout armor, but there's also the on-screen appearance of the armor in the original piece, which is Return of the Jedi. But in The Mandalorian, we have the scout trooper showing up, but his knees are upside down, uh, which is kind of a funny little detail there. Somehow they missed that. Otherwise, I would say the scout looks great in The Mandalorian. Based on this reference from Return of the Jedi, I noticed the scout also has a pretty good blast of spray paint on his kneecaps. That could also be more about exhaust from the vehicle marking up his armor rather than battle damage per se. Since the Battle of Endor hadn't really started yet, when you already see that these markings are on the scouts. The use of light spray paint markings occur on other parts of the armor, of course, not just the helmet. It's nice to use the soldier's cross to hold the helmet and body kit in the correct orientation for the painting process when I do weathering like this. It's also just a great way to see the armor rather than all the pieces just sitting around. Of course, it would be nice to have a mannequin or at least a torso or something, but those have their own problems. What's nice about this soldier's cross is it's very affordable to make, and you can sort of use it as a studio tool where you're setting up your armor and you can paint it and you can visualize it, sort of add details. Think of it like a painter's easel, but for your armor kit. At the end of the video, I'll show a clip of my son's room where I set up his armor kit, and it's very clean and it looks really nice. So every time I make an armor kit, I'm definitely going to make one of these soldiers' crosses. And I think you guys might enjoy that as well if you have an armor kit you'd like to display at home. At the very least, you can show off the body and the helmet, which sure has a lot of character. Well, I think I did a pretty okay job getting that on screen exhaust fume damage, weathering damage on the helmet. I'm not going to get it just totally perfect. It's not going to be exactly like the movie. But I snapped the lens back in, and I'm just giving this guy a little test drive outside. See how it looks in the sunshine. This helmet still has a ways to go, but I really like the foundation that's been created today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, which is an obsession with the Scout Trooper and other on screen awesomeness from Star Wars and all the related lore with Star Wars. Here's my kid's room. I'm really happy with how this came out. When he saw this, he came home from school and saw his armor set up like this, and he felt really proud, and he really it makes me feel proud too. So get your armor on display. It'll make you feel good. It'll make you feel proud.